We're back here with another preview series for fall camp. We're going to look at the defensive line. There's a lot of things to talk about with this group. We're going to name the best player, the breakout player, and the top freshman of the group. There's so many replacements that need to be made. So many guys competing for spots with Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche moving on. So talking about this defensive end group, David, what are your thoughts on this group? And then also, we'll start with this and then we'll get right into that best player of the group as a whole here.
Yeah, defensive end, they really need to hit on another transfer, in my opinion, right? DeAndre Johnson, who comes in from Tennessee, I think produced at a pretty good level at Tennessee, but the hope would be he's even more productive at Miami in this aggressive 4-3 system, which I do think that chance is there. You know, Manny Diaz's favorite stat he likes to roll off is every year of his defensive system, they've had a defensive end total 8 sacks in a season. I think there's still a chance that that tradition continues, so to speak, this year if DeAndre Johnson is healthy the whole year and ready to go, which no reason to think otherwise.
I like DeAndre's ability. I also like just kind of being around him a little bit on the offseason, kind of just observing him. Got to see him talk to a high school team and just his maturity, kind of where he is
Yeah,
at as a player. I really like that. I saw him talking to Calais Campbell a little bit at the Paradise Camp, just kind of picking up on tips. I think he's going to be an impactful player. I think he's going to be, I don't know if he's not going to be a Jalen Phillips production. I don't
right.
see that. I think he could be similar to Quincy Roche. Obviously, Quincy was a better player coming before he got to Miami than DeAndre, but
Right.
in terms of production, maybe you could see similar level of production while he was at UM. But he's definitely an interesting one. I'm very curious to see what we're gonna see from Jafari Harvey. We've talked about him quite a
Yeah.
bit for the first couple years. A lot of people are intrigued by him. I've been wanting to see more, and it's not necessarily
Right.
about um, it's about what we've seen in those opportunities, whether it's limited or not. I just wanted to see him make more plays, and
Yeah.
this is his opportunity. Zach McLeod at defensive end. Very curious to see if he can be an impactful, at least in his role. So very curious to see. Um, let's go with the breakout player before we name the
Yeah.
best player of this group. But who do you think of the breakout player of the defensive line? Include defensive tackles in this listing as
Okay.
well.
Well, I'll go with the guy I hope is the breakout player, and that would be Jafari Harvey. I think he's one of the guys on the team that is going to be a new face on this defense, a new role, hot starter role that I think legitimately has the talent to be a good player, right? Like there's going to be new names at linebacker. We'll see how that goes. Um, but I do think Jafari Harvey has the physical talent to be an impact player. Like you said, he needs to make impactful plays now that he has the chance. That's kind of been an up and down thing with him early in his career, but the word I'm getting behind the scenes is it is starting to come together, and the vibes I'm getting is that him and DeAndre Johnson have separated themselves from the pack of the rest of the defensive ends, and that includes Zach McLeod, which I think is a good thing because you want Zach to be a situational guy. So I'll go with Jafari. I'm curious who you go with.
Yeah, so my breakout player of the group, it's a little bit different. I was thinking about Jafari because, the things you've heard about and what we've seen. We do like some of the flashes
Yeah,
we've seen. Just want to see a little bit more production. I'm going to go with Jared Harrison-Hunt, and it's a little bit of surprise in the sense of would he classify as a breakout player because the first couple years you started to see it as a freshman. Last year, I think he didn't have
right.
that true impact that you're hoping for. So I'm going to go with Jared Harrison-Hunt because you know it's not a surprising player, but more just the totality of a season in terms of reps, production. I think he's going to have one of those really good years. I think he's got a chance to have one of those really good years. Once again, not a surprise if you've paid attention to the team. You know about Jared and his potential and his abilities, and you've seen it in flashes. I just think, in terms of a breakout guy, maybe more on an all ACC type of a player,
Yeah,
I think he can have one of those seasons. So he's my pick. And alongside that, my best player, I think the best player of the group, I do like what DeAndre Johnson's bringing to the table, but I think Nesta Jade Silvera is the best defensive lineman they have. And I think one of the things we saw last year, he took a jump in terms of playing time, produced. I
yeah,
think he can still do more. I'm
yeah,
very curious to see how he does. Also, I'm very curious to see what he does without guys like Jalen and Quincy, because you can have there's more attention on you
Right.
as a player when you don't have other guys along the line with that proven ability.
Yeah, I think, Nessa just needs to be more consistent, in my opinion, right? Like there were definitely games and quarters that he took over and he would wreck the line of scrimmage, and only special defensive tackles can do that. But there were some other games, other weeks where he was relatively quiet, right? So I think he just needs to sustain that high level that he can reach more consistently. And if he does, he's going to be an all ACC guy. And your Harrison-Hunt pick is a very good one. People in the program do feel like he's ready to make that type of leap that you're hinting at. And so we'll see if he can get it done. I'm sure you're going to get into him, but Leonard Taylor, I'm a huge fan. I know you're a huge fan. I just want to see him on the field.
I think he will. I don't think this coaching staff's going to play around and leave him off the field. He's a playmaker. If you liked what you saw from Jared Harrison-Hunt as a freshman, you're going to like what you got in Leonard
Oh
Taylor. And I
yeah.
think this coaching staff is going to get him in there. I think physically he's ready. I think he's
Yeah.
put on a few more pounds. I like his quickness. I think he's going to step right in. It is always difficult at that position for young guys to really make an impact, but you can put him in a certain role. I think he'll be good. I think he's going to be one of those guys that produces quite a bit at Miami. You should
Yeah.
be excited about him. I know everyone sometimes a little bit hesitant on the hype that you hear from high school, but he's the real deal. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed watching him in high school. I think it's going to translate. I think it will translate immediately.
Yeah. I remember. So at Paradise Camp, I asked him, you know, how much are you weighing now, and what'd you come in at? So he arrived in May. He said at 274. And at Paradise Camp, he was already weighing 305 pounds. It was all good weight. So yeah, physically, like as a true freshman, he's ready to play day one. We'll see if the technique and able to read things that you need to read on the inside there, if he's able to do that. But physically, he's got it all. Um, you know, he's probably the best defensive tackle signee Miami has added since I've covered the team. So hopefully they get him in there and let him do what he can do.
Yeah, and again, it's just going to be very interesting to see him in fall camp because he wasn't here in the spring. But I think one of the things that stood out to me, just kind of see him over the summer. We talked about his weight change. When you look at him, I know this might seem a little different because you said he added quite a bit of weight, but he doesn't look
No,
um,
which is good. He's
notice
lean.
right, right.
Yeah,
He doesn't look noticeably bigger, if that makes any sense
right.
at all. But I like that, it will be important at the collegiate level. Um, I think, maybe there will be times where, or maybe the first game where he's not, making all the plays you're hoping for immediately. It's such a tough position for true freshmen to come right in. But I think it just goes to show how much we think of his ability, that we do think he can have one of those good years, productive years. I think he could be one of those productive players in the rotation at defensive tackle. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see his playing time go up throughout the season as he gains more experience, understands what it takes. I think one of the things too that I like about Leonard is he's got different ways he can beat you. He could beat you with his size and,
Yeah,
and his push. Even being a young guy, I like this. He's got good footwork. He can kind of make
hands.
moves laterally, So I think
Yeah,
there's different ways he can be. And I think sometimes, regardless of what position you play, sometimes you're a little bit of a one-trick pony of what you can do at the collegiate level at whatever position you're playing when you make that jump into college. But I think he's a guy that has definitely a couple different assets that he can utilize. I think that's what's going to make him effective in year one.
before we get out of here, let me ask you, how big of a difference do you think Jess Simpson makes? He's coming back. You know, I think last year was tough for Todd Stroud, if we're being honest. COVID year, health issues. I think we saw some of that manifest in that UNC game with not being on the same page. But Jess Simpson's here. Can he get the group to play more cohesive at least?
Yeah, and I think he's also a little bit different mentality of a coach, even though he's a veteran guy. He's just coming back with a different, outlook on things. I know he's excited to be back at UM, likes what he has with the group. I do think that he'll try to get the most out of him, and I think this defensive line has to play well. There are some question marks, so very curious to see. But I do expect him to make an impact. I think he's going to bring something different to the table than they've had with Coach Stroud.